Firstly, pick a side. Either way, it is a signal moment in our history in which both parties have agreed and codified that the political structure of this nation shall now be based entirely on hypocrisy and political self-perpetuation. They demand the repeal of amendments they don't like and the strict interpretations of the ones they do when, in times of crisis, then and now, the economy turns out to be comprised entirely of a bunch of rich people who will sit on their money no matter if the country starves. Our own history proves that at a time of economic crisis, if the businesses aren't spending and the consumers aren't spending, the government must spend. The rich and the corporations are thus indemnified again and given more money not merely to spend on themselves and their own luxuries, but more vitally, they are given more money to spend on buying politicians, buying legislatures, buying courts, buying entire states, all of which can be directed like so many weapons. Every dollar cut from the safety net is another dollar added to the citizen's cost for education, for security, for health, for life itself. It is another dollar he can't spend on making a better life for himself, or at least his children. It is another dollar he must spend instead on simply keeping himself alive. Where is the outrage over these great hypocrisies? Do you expect it to come from a corrupt and corrupted media? Do you expect it will come from the great middle ground of this country, with a population obsessed with entertainment, video games, social media, sports, and trivia? Do you expect it from politicians themselves who will merely calculate whether or not it's right based on whether or not it will get them more contributions? It will do no good to wait for the media to suddenly remember its origins as the free press, the watchdog of democracy envisioned by Jefferson. They are too busy trying to get exclusive details about exactly how the bank robbers emptied the public's pockets to give a damn about telling anybody what they looked like or which way they went. Do you expect it to come from a cynical and manipulative political structure? Do you expect it from those elected officials who no longer know anything of government or governance, but only perceive how to get elected or how to pose in front of a camera and pretend to be leaders? We have in this deal declared that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all political incumbents are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are renomination, re-election, and the pursuit of hypocrisy. Where does it say in the Constitution that the two houses of Congress can, in effect, create a third house to do their dirty work for them? It will do no good to wait for the politicians to suddenly atone for their sins. They're too busy trying to keep their jobs to do their jobs. Now, this ever more institutionalized economic battering of the average American, they can't hear the clue through all the chatter and scandal and diversion and delusion and illusion. The betrayal of what this nation is supposed to be about did not begin with this deal, and it surely will not end with this deal. There is a tide pushing back the rights of each of us. It will continue and it will crush us, because those who created it are organized and unified and hell-bent. And the only response is to be organized and unified and hell-bent in return. Where is the outrage to come from? From you. First, you've got to get mad. I cannot say to you, meet here or there at this hour or that one, and we'll peacefully break the back of government that now exists merely to get its functionaries reelected. But I can say that the time is coming when the window for us to restore the control of our government to ourselves will close, and we had damn well better act before then. It would be comical if it were not tragic. We must protest this deal and all the goddamn deals to come in the streets. We must arise non-violently but insistently. General strikes, boycotts, protests, sit-ins, non-cooperation, takeovers. But modern versions of that resistance, facilitated and amplified by a weapon our predecessors did not have, the glory that is instantaneous communication. This deal is more than a tipping point in which the government goes from defending the safety net to gutting it. This is wrong. And while our government has now declared that it has given up the concept of right and wrong, you and I have not and will not do so.
Greetings world, we are anonymous. The fight against the criminal class in control of world governments and globalist banking institutions is about to enter a new phase. The human race is finally seeing through the veil that has shrouded the inner workings of the 1%, or as some call them, the elite. Now it is time to focus the light of truth onto the privately owned Rothschild bank allowed to operate with impunity inside American borders, the Federal Reserve Bank. On October 7th, many of the 99% will begin to march on the Federal Reserve banking cartel. As many of you already understand, the Federal Reserve is allowed to devalue the United States dollar by printing an unlimited amount of money. The same practices were used in Mexico to bring that country to its knees. We will not let this happen in America. We will not let the movement be infiltrated by the same corrupt elites or their agents, and yes, we are aware that they are trying, for their indiscretion and actions of covert practices, to attempt infiltration of the Occupy Wall Street movement, and steer it toward their own agendas. We will bring the fight to their front doorstep. On October 7th, we the people will begin to occupy Federal Reserve buildings across the country. We demand an immediate audit of the Federal Reserve by independent auditors not associated with the government or the Federal Reserve banking cartel. We demand the removal, investigation, and prosecution of those guilty of economic terrorism and treason against the American people. On October 7th, we will show the cowards in Washington we will no longer be taken advantage of or openly robbed. On October 7th, the Fed is dead. We are anonymous, we are legion, we do not forgive, we do not forget, expect us.
1913, this country died. When we adopted the central bank, it went up, gas goes up, milk goes up, trains go up. How am I supposed to live? And this is all because our government prints too much money, starts too much wars, so they can sell their tanks, their guns, their missiles, because that's all America exports. It's guns, missiles, and tanks. That's it. We need to bring production back to America. And the Federal Reserve, and the fractional banking system. When you invest $100 in a bank, they multiply that by 9, and they send it out 9 different ways. They don't just make money on the initial investment, they make it 9 times the initial investment. That's fake money that they printed out of thin air.